Right, so the floor is down, the walls are up, but there's loads of work left to do, and today I mean business, serious business. We need a roof, and before we can build a roof we need to know what timber size to use. Obviously you can look at span tables online if you want to, but this is just a shed, so most building regs don't apply. And there's a good rule of thumb trick for figuring out what size timber to use. So if you divide the total span by 20 and then add 20, that will give you the width of the 2-inch timber that you need to use at 400mm centres. So for example, our span here is roughly 2260, divided by 20 is 113, add 20 is 133. So in other words, 6x2 or 150 by 47mm timber would be a good choice. But that rule of thumb calculation is really designed for floors to make sure that it can take heavy weight, regular footfall, and to make sure there's no bounce or movement in the floorboards. And we're building a shed roof here, which isn't going to get heavy footfall. The heaviest load it's going to get is snow in the winter, plus the weight of the OSB sheets that are going on top. And the problem that we have is the 6x2 in the length that we needed was out of stock. We could have sourced it from another supplier for a small fortune, but my brother's shed budget is already looking a bit stretched. So I've had a bit of a think about it, and I think I have a cunning plan for making use of these 4x2s. They measure 100mm by 47mm. And that plan is to run a purlin from end to end down the length of the shed. And I know what you're thinking. There's no way that a purlin that long is going to provide any support. It's just going to sag. But what I haven't mentioned yet is that this shed is going to have a central wall right here, which will divide up the space to a shed area here and a summer house here. Another benefit of using 4x2 rather than 6x2 is that it saves us 2 inches on the height of our building, because we've got quite a fluctuating ground level here, and because there's a permitted development height restriction of 2.5 meters, 4x2 is going to keep us within that. I want a nice straight timber for my purlin, and for this I'm using 3x2. I'd have preferred 4x2 for this, but we had quite a few of these left over and I think it'll do the job fine once it's supported in the middle. I need to add more timber to the top of these end walls, which I had accidentally cut too short in a previous video. And that gives us somewhere to secure the joist hanger to. And once again, I'm using things that I already had kicking around. So these joist hangers aren't the right size for the timber that we're using, but we had them, so we're using them. I also had some of these twist nails, which are the recommended fixings for joist hangers. Before I install the purlin, I'm going to frame out the internal wall, which I'm not going to build in the conventional way, mainly because I want to create an air gap around it, using some glazing packers to separate it from the frame. This is just an idea that I'm trying out in an attempt to keep it dry, because I think my brother wants to mount some plywood to this later down the line, and I think this will help to keep it dry and stop any chance of it possibly delaminating. I like to try little experiments like this occasionally, especially when it's my brother being the guinea pig rather than me. Now the purlin can go in, and I'm framing out the wall to support it. I just wanted to let you know that I now have plans available for this 16x8 shed project, which go into loads of detail and include material lists, cut lists, drawings, and basically all the information I think you'll need to build a shed of your own. There'll be a link in the description box below. Thank you. Now we can cut down these 5.4 meter lengths of 4x2 for the span of our roof. I wasn't too impressed with the quality of these supposedly pressure treated 4x2s. We bought this from a different supplier to the timber merchant that we'd used for the rest of the timber. That treatment certainly hasn't penetrated the wood as deep as it normally does. It would have been good to have a nice flat area to assemble this, but my brother's lawn is a bit higgledy-piggledy, so we just found the flattest spot we could to work on. And I used more 3x2 for the noggins, which from memory were just over 400mm in length to space out the joists consistently. And because this thing is going to be pretty heavy once it's all put together, we decided to basically just get a few joists secured to the 2 header joists before we lift it in situ to finish it off. At this point we measured corner to corner to make sure it's going together square, and it was about 4mm out, which on a structure this big is not much at all. And we can check it again and make any adjustments once we get it on top of the shed. Here's the moment my brother almost decapitated me.
Whoa. Let's start.
Now we can get the rest of the joists in, using the noggins as spacers. And then some long hex head screws secure each joist to the wall frames. I also added a fixing through the purlin into each of the joists. We have some 18mm OSB for cladding the roof. I just needed to make a few cuts to the sheets so that they finish on the centre of a joist. And those got secured with 50mm nails. And we staggered all the joins between each sheet for maximum strength and rigidity. And once the sheets were in, I added the noggins from beneath, which will hide the joins between each sheet from the inside and also strengthen the roof structure. A laser would have been ideal for lining these up, but unfortunately I didn't have one with me. Now that the structure is nice and strong, we can get the rest of the windows and doors fitted, starting with this huge one here. We needed to remove the glazed panel for access to screw the frames in, so I brought my suction pads with me to help carry this very heavy unit.
Naked glove.
We can then get the glass back in and refit the beads. And then we could rehang the doors. Right, I've got the last door fitted now. Just need to put a new cylinder lock in there. And the next thing to work on is this gap where the soffit is. And you'll see that we left a consistent 50mm gap all the way around the perimeter of the shed. And that's because we're going to be installing some of these things, soffit vents. We managed to pick up 22 of these for £10 on Facebook Marketplace. They're second hand, but the plan is to run them all around the perimeter of the shed because I'm a firm believer in there being no such thing as too much ventilation in a shed here in the UK. And I learned that the hard way when I built my previous shed. If you watch the follow-up video I did about some of the problems I was having with the shed, even though I added what I had assumed to be enough ventilation, I ended up having to add more. We cut miters to the ends of these vents in the corners so that we can run them all the way around, so this shed is going to get loads of natural airflow. Right, it's a new day. My brother's been busy laying some paving slabs, and it looks like my niece has been busy too, and the stuff for the EPDM roof has arrived too, which is going to be the main job for today. I've not actually done an EPDM roof before, but I've watched a few videos of Matt at Badger Workshop doing his, and he assures me that it's quick and easy. I want to make sure there are no sharp edges or corners, so I just quickly ran the belt sander over it. Then it's important to get it nice and clean before we lay the rubber down. So as I mentioned, I've never used this stuff before, but I was immediately impressed by how thick and high quality it felt, even though we'd ordered the thinnest 1.2mm rubber available. And that was just because this stuff isn't cheap. More on that later in the video. We need to lay the rubber down to rest and acclimatise before we fit it, so while we're waiting for that, I'm going to work on trimming out this large window in the summer house side of the shed to hide these gaps.
What are you doing with that?
I'm making a trim for the window. It would have been nice to add a round over to these pieces, but I didn't have my router with me, so I used the belt sander just to ease over any sharp corners.
Casey, what about if it falls down? It smells like poo.
Sounds like poo?
Yeah.
Right, back to the roof now, and after another sweep and a stir of the adhesive, which by the way is this stuff here and came provided with the rest of the kit, we can get this installed. Working from the centre out and brushing out any air bubbles with a broom was quick and easy to do, and I have to say I think this whole system is absolutely brilliant. I've seen many of the kits come with a different type of adhesive, a contact adhesive rather than a water-based one, which gets applied only to a few inches around the perimeter of the roof. but the kit that we ordered didn't have that included. I'm pretty confident that it shouldn't be an issue though, because this water-based stuff was extremely sticky stuff, like a PVA glue but on steroids, and it tacks up very quickly. The kit also comes with these UPVC trims. We found the centre of the building and we sized our roof so that we can use two 2.5 metre lengths of this trim with a centre join, and they secure with polyhead pins which also come with the kit. For 3 edges of the roof, the front and 2 ends, these trims have a lip at the top to direct the water down to the roof and an adhesive foam strip under the lip that pushes down onto the rubber. And you also get these joining plates which hide the gaps.
It's good, isn't it?
Now traditionally what you'd do here is cut the excess rubber away, flush with the bottom of the UPVC trims. But my brother wanted to do things a little differently to retain the rubber and kind of wrap it underneath. So he made some cuts at the corners just at the very bottom to remove some of the excess material and get a neater fold, which could then be tucked behind the trim. Corner plates also come provided, and they have knockouts depending on the types of trims that they need to be secured to. And this black sealant comes with the kit too to get them stuck in place. Before finishing off the roof, I also got some silicone around this huge window. And there was a different type of trim provided for the back edge of the building for the gutter edge. These two pieces basically form a sandwich with the rubber in the middle. So the inside gets nailed on, leaving a couple of millimeters as a reveal at the top to make sure that water can run off it. Then the rubber gets flopped over, ready for the outer trim pieces to be secured. So back to that idea that my brother had of wrapping the rubber around, he got me to cut some more trim pieces from the leftover cladding to hold it in place. Some 18 gauge nails hold it in place temporarily, and then we can get some screws in. And with that, the shed is basically complete. We do still need to add a gutter at the back, but my brother is still trying to figure out exactly what he wants to do there, I think. The costs for the roof were as follows. 8 5.4 metre lengths of treated 4x2 came to £88. We got that from a place where they basically make sheds, but they also sell materials on the side, and they're pretty cheap, but as I mentioned earlier, the quality wasn't brilliant. 5 sheets of 18mm OSB was £105. Nails and fixings came to about £15, and the soffit vents were £10 second hand. The EPDM roofing kit came to £398, so like I said earlier, not cheap, but it is a really good system. Roof felt would obviously be a much cheaper option here at probably around a quarter of the price, but it doesn't look as good, takes longer to fit, and doesn't last as long. EPDM rubber has a life expectancy of 50 years plus, so once it's done, you might never have to worry about it again. So the total cost for the roof is £616. Add to that the cost of the floor, walls, windows and doors, and the total cost of the shed is £1,945, which for a 16 by 8 foot shed, or 4.8 by 2.4 metres, made from high quality materials, perhaps with the exception of that timber that we used for the roof, I think that's pretty decent, and I'm sure it will serve my brother's family very well. I didn't charge any labour costs for this one, but if you're interested in how long it took in total, I do just want to caveat that obviously we were filming the whole thing from start to finish, which adds quite a lot of time into the equation, probably around 20 to 30%. Anyway, the floor took around 7 hours, the wall framing around 6 hours, doing the cladding and fitting the windows and doors was around 9 hours, the roof framing, purlin, internal wall and cladding was around 7 hours, and then finishing up with the EPDM roof, etc. was around 6 hours. That's a total of 35 hours, so if you deduct about 25% of that for filming, the total is around 26 hours. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.